Longtime fans of the show should be familiar with the lender formerly known as Sue Pullen, and I'm pleased to announce that she's back, fresh off a rebrand and ready to help as Sue Mackey. Sue is a certified mortgage advisor at Fairway Independent Mortgage, an equal housing lender who focuses on finding the right product for you and your needs. She has over 20 years of experience helping thousands of homeowners. Whether it's purchasing, refinancing, or even a reverse mortgage, Sue will help. Sue's licensed in 36 states now, so reach out and let Sue Mackey it happen for you. The best way to reach her is just give her a call at 520-977-7904 or in an email, spullen@fairwaymc.com. Fairway Independent Mortgage has an MLS number of 2289. Sue Mackey has an MLS number of 206048. That email again, spullen@fairwaymc.com, and that phone number is 520-977-7904. Shoot Sue an email and let her know she needs to update that address.
You are listening to an entertainment program put together by a company called Financial Ineptitude. Anything said on this show is not an endorsement or professional advice. Would you really want to tell a court of law you were suing us because you thought taking financial advice from two idiots on a podcast put out by Financial Ineptitude was a good idea? Really? Clown hat, smiley face.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the China Shop. Joining me today is the transparent and tenacious Tony Pawlak, full-time stock and options trader and coach with Real Life Trading. If you'd like to learn more about today's guest, check out his website at reallifetrading.com, or you can visit their YouTube channel at Real Life Trading. And be sure to stick around to the end for a special offer from Tony to our listeners. Finally, feel free to reach out with your suggestions, corrections, or questions for future guests. You can do that via email at twobulls@financialineptitude.com, or you can join our free Discord server where a bunch of amazing people gather to share our struggles and lessons learned with other like-minded market aficionados. We'll have all those links in the episode description so you can peruse them at your convenience. But now, without any further ado, welcome to the shop. How are you doing today, Tony?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I saw you pop up on, I think we filled out a request for guests on podcast. I think podcast guest, is that the one? They send out the newsletter. Yeah, a lot of times we get a lot of CFAs and CPAs, and saw your name and like highlight that one. We're talking to him immediately.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I've got a story to tell. There's no doubt about that. So I'm happy to be here and share it.
I heard some of it on Andrew Stoltz's podcast that you did recently. Was it my worst investment ever?
Correct. Yeah.
So I won't spoil it, but we kind of just talk about your journey then, because you have got a pretty similar journey to a lot of retail traders, it seems like.
Yeah, definitely. So starting from the get-go, I've always loved the markets. I've always dabbled in the markets, but I ran a trucking company for my family for years and years. And, I just felt like I was being pushed to quit that job and dive full-time into trading. So
who was pushing you?
Who was pushing me? God, it was just something I had. It was just this internal desire that I had. It's really what I want. I love the markets. I love the lifestyle, right? I think that's everyone can relate to that. I love the lifestyle that the markets bring. And I just felt like I was just being pushed. Like, I just need to do this.
I could relate to that so well. It's just that when you find something you love and you're doing something you don't, it becomes really hard to do that thing that you don't love.
It's 100%. It makes it even more. Once I knew I wanted to trade, it made my normal job just that much more unbearable. Can you relate to that?
Yes, I know. I was working in the steel industry, and when I decided to take the leap, and time will tell if it was a good decision or not. But
I love that.
Give it a try. Anyway, sorry. Back to your journey. Didn't mean to interrupt you there.
All good, man. Anytime. Yeah. So we pulled a cord. I go to my wife. I'm like, this is what we're gonna do, and she's like, let's do it. I mean, she's crazy supportive, and she likes an adventure. So let's do this thing. So we sell everything we have, and we're living in Arizona at the time, and we go to Utah. That's where my wife's family's from. So that was one of the pushing factors. She's like, I can go back home. We're like, let's do it.
Right.
And so we sell everything. We go to Utah. We buy a house. I think I have $30,000 in my trading account, and we have some money set aside in savings. And I was like, I'm going to be rich. Let's do this thing, right? This is what the universe is telling me to do. I feel like this is where God's telling me to go. How can I fail? And so, that's the start of it, man. It's about a week in, I'm looking at this. This is the first time I've traded with pressure. I've always just traded. And now it's like, I need to make $5,000 in 3 weeks, so get out
Right.
there and make it happen. And within the first week, I'm down like $5,000. I'm like, okay, I got to make 10 grand in 2 weeks, and it just spiraled from there. And trading full time and that pressure was something I was not prepared for. And we can discuss a little bit of how to prepare for that, because I don't want people to make the same mistakes I did. I want everyone to learn from my mistakes so they don't have to go through it.
Well, we'll touch on that too.
100%.
But anyway, yeah.
So it turns out I lose my entire trading account within about I wouldn't say within a month or so. I lose the entire thing. So we take our savings and we flood it into the trading account like normal, right? Like that's natural.
Oh yeah. You reload,
and I lose that in a short amount of time. It's gone.
Oh.
So we have nothing now. We have bills due. I have no savings now. I have no trading account. I've lost it all. And I'm like, I just feel like I'm supposed to be doing this. Let's go get a loan. So I went and got a loan. And that loan lasted probably another month or so, I would guess. And I lost all of that. So I went back to the bank and got another loan. That was gone even quicker. And at that point, all I could get were credit cards after that. So then I just start getting every credit card that I can, and I'm cashing them out at like 20, 25% interest rates.
Oh my God.
Just to put into a trading account.
Yeah.
And it was a nightmare. I mean, falling apart. And by this point, it'd been, I would say 5 or 6 months into it. And we are just drowning in debt. I mean, have no money, barely paying our bills really off of loans, right?
Right.
And the trading account is still only at like 15 to 18,000. Because I keep taking money out to pay for bills, and then I'm not really making any money on it. So it just slowly dwindles until it's gone after 3 weeks, and I go out and try to find more money to fund it again, right?
Right.
It was just a nightmare. And I literally cried myself to sleep for 6 or 7 months. It was the hardest thing I have ever gone through. I went from being very successful and a very comfortable life to I should be on food stamps.
Mm-hmm.
And really, there is a change. There's a turning point to this. But
well, hang on. Before we get to the turning point, I want to go back to the beginning real quick. And like, how prepared were you? Did you think at the time when you took the leap, like how much did you think you knew? How much had you studied? Like, did you think you had it figured out already at that point?
Yeah. At that point, I've been kind of dabbling in trading, and that's a good word for it, dabbling, for probably 3 or 4 years. Okay. So I thought I had a pretty good understanding, and I was trading options that whole time. And that's still what I did when I quit my job. And so I had a good understanding of the markets. Looking back now, I laugh as like, no, I was not, they're even just sheerly trading. I did not have the knowledge that I needed to be successful, but more than that, the emotional control and the knowledge of how to trade with pressure,
emotional control and pressure.
Emotional control. It's, I think about the markets as if you're trying to court the markets, if you're walking up to a girl and you text and call her every 3.5 seconds and you never give her any, you're just always on in front of her face, odds are the girl's going to leave, right? She's not interested. Mm-hmm. And that's how I treated the markets. I was just like begging for money from the markets. And instead of planning for the best setups, I just took everything and anything that came my way because I needed money so bad. And so to turn it around, you have that guy who sends a text message and then doesn't talk to the girl for 2 weeks. And then she's, you know what I'm saying? It's a different approach of like, I don't need you in my life, but it'd be cool if you were in my life. And that's the attitude of approach to the market you need to have is, yes, you need, like today, I need to make money, but I don't approach it in a needy way. I sit back as, yes, I need money, but I'm going to plan my entries. I'm going to sit back. I'll be patient. So for 3 weeks, I might not make a dime, but I know in that 4th week, it's going to start loading up because I took the best trades possible. So
exactly.
That was kind of the shift. Yeah. I far from those skills. I got those skills through Hard Knocks.
Okay.
And realizing what I was doing wrong and right. So,
well, the picture that you're painting right now sounds very dire. So like that turnaround couldn't have been overnight, could it?
No, it wasn't. It's funny because there was a turning point that happened overnight, but it was still a long journey to get myself out of the hole.
Yeah.
And that turning point was my wife and I, we budgeted like $10 a week for groceries. That's all we had. That we had nothing, man. It was the roughest point of my life. And I tell my wife all the time, she can buy whatever the heck she wants now.
Yeah. Because
I put her through the worst that anyone financially could go through. And the fact that she stuck with it and continued to support me, even though I continued to lose everything we had week after week after week. and promising her, hey, this is going to work eventually. I just know it. God's telling me it's going to work. It's just not yet.
Can I ask you
And
another question then? I don't
yeah.
know if this is getting too deep into your relationship, but were you involving her with everything that you were doing at the time, or were you trying to hide it?
Oh, that's a great question. I involved her from the get-go, from everything.
Yeah.
So
Thank God for that.
it got, yes. Yeah. I think if I would have hit it, it would have made things 10 times
Oh,
worse.
yes.
But yeah. And so every single day I was updating her on exactly what our status was.
Mm-hmm.
And she had to grow just as much as I had to grow.
Right.
You know, she at the start, she'd be like, you know what I could have bought with that $5,000, and it's just gone. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And she went from that thinking to playing the game, because there is a game to be played in the stock market. And if you know how to play the game, you'll be successful.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, you're just going to fall. Like you'll be exactly, early Tony trading. Right?
Right.
It's a nightmare.
Or
I
any
wasn't
of
playing
us.
the game. Yeah, exactly. So we both had to evolve. And really it was my wife
Mhm.
that started to truly change things. So with this groceries, we literally have cans of beans and some corn. Like that is what we have to eat, and some ramen.
Yeah, like
And
the Thanksgiving donation box that everyone gets rid of their cans of cream corn.
exactly.
Yeah,
And so these people come to do a food donation, and that's, my wife gives them everything we have. And I'm saying everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what are you doing? Like, I was so mad at her. And she turned to me. She's like, I'm tired of living in fear. I am tired of squeezing onto everything that I have, and it's time to just let it go. I'm tired of money. I'm tired about just everything. She's just exhausted with everything.
I love
And
that.
yeah. And it hit me like nothing had ever hit me in my entire life. And I was like, I need to take that approach to the markets.
Yeah.
I'm going to go take that next trade, and I am not going to care if it wins or loses. I'm going to take my setup. I'm going to let the dumb thing work. If it loses, it loses. I am done caring. Now, not being reckless. I didn't just go throw money at some, like I planned that. But the problem was, at that point, I was overman. I wasn't accepting the loss.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I was, but I wasn't at all. And
Yes.
I wasn't ever letting anything work. I wasn't playing the game.
Well, why don't you explain the game then? Let's. I'd like to hear that.
Let's do it. So let's play this game of flipping a coin. Okay. On heads, you get paid $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
On tails, you pay me $300.
Flip it as many times as you want.
Yeah. Unlimited coin flips. Let's play that game. Right. And I think most logical person will say, yeah. And so they start playing that game, and they flip the coin, and it lands on tails. And you're like, okay, I'm down $300. All right.
Mm-hmm.
It lands on tails the second coin flip. I'm down $600. Let's flip it again. It lands on tails the third time, and now they're down $900, and they start to freak out. What if it lands on tails one more time? I'll be down so much money, and what if, and they just start to spiral, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when all they need to do logically is go back to the thinking that we just had of, yeah, let's play that game. Right. Because what's the logic? The logic is it could land on tails 3 times in a row. But flip the coin enough times, and it's going to start to even its way out, and you're making way more money on heads than you're losing on tails.
Yep. We've had that same exact scenario proposed to us by Rich Friesen when we were doing our trading psychology miniseries.
Man,
it's hard to get into that mindset, though. It's almost like you need to be bombarded by the stats enough to where you believe it, because, like you said, you take those 3 tails in a row, and then suddenly you're questioning everything again.
Yeah.
So how do you keep that faith in your setups and your systems then, even when you are taking drawdowns like that?
Man, exactly what you said. Back trade. You've got to be so confident in the long run. So I went back as far as the charts would take me.
Mm-hmm.
And I would back trade literally for 10 hours a day. I would trade, and then I would spend until like 11 o'clock at night back trading. As soon as the markets closed, I was at it. And the markets closed like 2 o'clock, right? My time in Utah.
Yeah.
And so every day I just spent every waking moment in my life back trading and gaining confidence in it, because as I was back trading, I'm like, man, I'm losing. I'm just losing. And I'm recording every single back trade exactly the way I would trade it, recording the results, exactly the dollar amount, everything. And it's funny because as I was doing it, I was like, man, if I look at my P&L, it's probably way down, just like I am. And after 150 trades, I looked at it and I was up a lot. And I was like, what, really? I've lost so much. Like, how am I profitable? And I go back through, and sure enough, the math was in my favor. And when you don't have those emotions, when it loses, you do your best to lose small.
Yep.
And when it wins, you do your best to win big. And that's the game.
Mm-hmm.
That is the game of trading. That's all it is. People think the game of trading is winning on trades and not losing.
Yeah.
It's
It's like in poker. Like if the game is to win as many pots, then you would never fold. But
Yeah,
but you could win the most pots and still lose the most money.
exactly.
Hmm.
It's if you're playing the game, you're not trying to win and avoid losing. You are simply having an edge that gives you a 50-50 shot, a coin flip.
Right.
And you are sitting back with an open mindset of if the markets give me a chance to win, I'm going to win big.
Hmm.
If the markets give me a chance to lose, I'm going to lose small. So losing becomes part of my strategy. And instead of me avoiding losing and being scared to lose, in that pivot point that day, I started to change the way I thought. And I was like, I am no longer scared to lose. Losing is going to be a part of my strategy, a part of my plan. And that's when everything changed because I still had losses on trades. But before, when I was losing, I would hope that it would turn around. And when I was
Ah.
winning, I was scared I was going to give up the win. And so I would get out for a small win and I would get out for a large loss.
Oh
The
yes.
math was completely in reverse, right?
Yeah, I remember the first time I learned about expectancy and all that. Like, yeah, that was a huge turning point in my life too.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you like I'm gonna go broke if I keep taking 10 cents on every options trade, but yet eating a 50% loss every time. Like, it's
Yeah.
not sustainable.
It's not, it's so funny because it takes like, I coach a couple thousand hours a year with students one-on-one in the
Hmm.
stock market. I trade full time, but it's my passion to help others because I think my road was so hard that I just don't. There's no need. It's such a waste in my past is such a waste unless I help someone not go through that same thing. And that's
Yeah.
just the way I view it.
Well, the question I always like to ask people is if somebody had tried to step in and help you, like, do you think you would have learned those lessons, or is that something that you just kind of have to go through yourself almost?
Yeah, I guess it's the mindset because you can go through it yourself. The problem is most people won't stick around long enough to win,
Yeah.
to get on the other side.
Yeah.
Because I tell you what, how I said it was a long road getting my way out.
Uh-huh.
I developed a strategy with credit spreads. I problem solved. I'm like, I need consistency.
Hmm.
I don't need up and down. I need consistency. I like selling options. I need this. The problem is with my size trading account, I can make $300 a month. How can I make $1,500 a week
Right.
with a
Right. Right.
$15,000, right?
Yeah.
So I developed this strategy. I backed out so that I was back trading just over and over and over again. And I figured out it worked.
Hmm.
And I started implementing it. And sure enough, we start making money. Well, I still was making mistakes. And so I would go 3 months of paying our bills, but my account was never growing because I would make 1,500 and that money's out to go pay bills. Like it was
Yeah.
never growing the account. Right.
Right. Right.
So as soon as I made a mistake, I was pretty heavy size on that account because I had to.
Right.
I would go backwards pretty far. So that was a mistake that it was a long road out that yes, I'm finally paying my bills, but I would learn, okay, don't do that over earnings or don't do this. Don't unravel the spread when I've got, 20 contracts on Amazon when it used to cost thousands of dollars. And all of a sudden I just wiped 20 grand off the shelf in 10 seconds. Like I just made all these mistakes that again, now that I've learned, people can pay money to learn. I promise you, I would have lost a lot less money if I would have just reached out to Jeremy Newsom, who's my mentor now,
Uh-huh.
and just been like, let me pay you 50 grand to teach me how to do this. At least show me what not to do.
Right.
Because instead I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars making the classic mistakes. Right.
Yeah. But see, the funny thing is, like Dan and I, we started this podcast about 3 years ago right about the time we started our journey, like trying to go, like learning the markets. And then I think maybe 6 months after that, we both made the leap to try to do this full time and still trying, but we're getting there. Not losing money anymore, but I'm not really making it either. But that's, the next step on the path is usually consistently flat.
Yeah.
But like we've had people come in with amazing products and classes, and like they've given them to us like just because of the fact that we host a podcast. And I tell you, even with all that information, like I go back and look at it now, I'm like, oh, that's what that means. Shit, I had no idea. Like, oh, that's why risk was important. Oh, okay, that's what you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
Like you still don't know what you don't know, and like how can a mentor like help you? Like how can they make up for that experience gap? Like stress that importance to you. I'm just curious.
Yeah. So let's give an example of what I'm doing with my students. So most of my students walk in and I go, all right, what's going on? Show me your trades. Walk me through what you've been doing. And they're putting the effort in, but they're running the wrong direction. So a lot of the times, like my students would put a lot of effort in, but they would bounce to a new strategy every 3 days when one wasn't immediately working.
Yep.
And so, they put a lot of effort in, but it was going the wrong way. Like I'm a big golfer, and people struggle with golf because they think, like one example, I need to get the club underneath the golf ball to get it in the air.
Mm-hmm.
When in reality, it's the changing. It's like I'm actually hitting that ball on the way down, right? It's thinking about hitting the ball on the way down, not scooping underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reason why people struggle with golf is because it's so counterintuitive to what your brain sees.
Okay.
And trading is the exact same way.
Yeah.
Trading requires you to think so different than what you naturally feel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would walk to my student and be like, you're working so hard. And like, it's been 3 years and I'm just not getting it. It's like, you're putting all the effort in, but you're spending 8 hours a day on the range trying to get underneath the golf ball. You're doing it wrong, right? You're reinforcing the wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my job to kind of help turn them around and say, okay, I've at least shown you where to run to, what direction you need to focus on, where you need to go. Take all of that effort and start going the other way, right? Go the right way on this path and you'll start to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Most people struggle in the markets is because a mentor is going to help them to see which direction they should be running. You can put all the effort in and you can watch as many things as you want to watch, but a mentor truly does point you and make sure that your effort's going in the right direction, because naturally our natural instincts are going to cause us to lose in the markets every single time. Our natural instincts are, when we see green, we take it. And when we see red, hope it'll come back.
Right.
And that's the exact opposite of what we should be doing. Right.
Yes.
It's just one little example. But there's so many of those things that cause us to lose a lot of money as we're learning that. And if you just had a mentor to go, no, that's the wrong way of thinking from the get-go. Think this way and practice this. That at least you're in the right direction as you're working on it. And it's still a process. It's not like an overnight thing.
Right.
But a mentor was crucial for me.
It's more like a guide. Like he's someone that's going to help point you in the right direction, but you still got to walk from point A to point B.
100%.
Yeah.
And, I'll show them. Another thing too is, I tell people this all the time. I'm a really big price action trader.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Naturally, people look at strategies. Now I have awesome strategies and they're great, but I could give you the world's greatest bull strategy. And if you do it in a bear market, you're going to get crushed. Right.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm keen on is I teach people how to read the charts. The charts are going to give you an idea of if it's going bullish or bearish. And more importantly, the charts are going to tell you where it's wrong,
mm-hmm.
so that I can set myself up to put the math in my favor of losing small and winning big. And it's kind of like a car. If your car doesn't start, I use this analogy all the time, but if your car doesn't start, you don't just go out and get a pair of pliers. Like you first need to find out like what is wrong with the car. Okay, the battery's dead. What tools do I need to take the battery off?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. A strategy is just a tool. It's the tool that you use to make money. But if you don't diagnose the markets correctly, it doesn't matter if you have a pair of pliers. Like that might not help you get your car started.
Right.
You got to figure out what's wrong with it first. So diagnose the markets.
Yeah.
And
the setups are your tools, and you got to know what tool to deploy in what situation.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. And so a lot of people are like, should you do this or do that? I'm like, well, it depends. I mean, right now, I'm not doing a whole lot of stuff overnight because the markets are so extended bullish.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing a lot more day trading and, this and that, because I want to get in and out, because whenever the markets are this high, it's just a matter of time before they start to pull back.
Right.
It's not this like people look at stuff I've done a year ago and they're like, wow, you do this a lot. I'm like, yes, at that time. And I still do that a lot. But right now in this circumstance, this is what I've diagnosed. This is allowing me to control my risk the best. And this is how I'm pulling in profits while I'm waiting for a pullback so I can get in at a better entry type thing for longer term plays or whatever, et cetera.
Right.
So
let's go back to what you're talking about with trading under pressure then. So were you able to actually cope with that? How were you able to turn things around still with that pressure on you? Because that pressure never went away.
No, and it's still here today.
Yes,
right?
yes.
It was a full-time trader. Yeah. You know what? The number one thing to cope with pressure, again, it's going to be the backwards way of thinking, but that's what's going to make you successful. If you think like the 90%, you're going to be like the 90%. They're not going to make any money. You've got to think like the 10%. You've got to accept the loss, number one. Meaning most people, when they're down on money, they're too scared to lose more money.
Yep.
That's your natural instinct. So instead, you've got to reverse that around. And I'm not saying put more on. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you have to not be scared to lose money. So you have to stick to the plan.
Yes.
You have to be willing to put that edge out there, understanding your risk, controlling your risk, and losing small when you're wrong, And when the markets give you a chance to win, to not take your profits too soon before your plan's telling you to.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
To let it go in your favor. You need big winners to stay alive in the stock market.
Mm-hmm.
And it's trading under pressure. First things first is getting yourself into that right mindset where I am not scared to lose. People ask me all the time, like, how are you so brave? I'm like, I'm not brave. I'm just not scared of either scenario. There's nothing to be brave about. I'm not scared to lose. And I'm not scared to win.
How do you get to that mindset though? Like, did you have to almost like go through, because it sounds like you got pretty close to like a rock bottom almost, to where like, hey, this is the worst it can get. Like, okay,
yeah,
I can go get a job then. I mean, that's problem solved, you know? Like,
yeah, well, really, that's what it is. That's what I do with my students. I have them go through a worst scenario exercise. Your brain always goes to the extremes, and it's usually not true.
mm-hmm.
When I was scared to fail when I was first starting, right?
Yeah.
My family basically said, good luck, you're going to lose everything you have.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I was like, I'm going to prove them wrong. And it turns out that, it's funny because losing everything I ever had was the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. But still, in that moment, my brain was like, this is your only chance to have to trade. If you fail on this, you'll never trade again.
Yeah.
And I thought that and believed that for months. And every single trade I would go into, I'd be so scared to lose on, because losing on a trade, I wasn't playing the game, right? Losing on a trade means I'm going backwards. Winning on a trade means I'm going forward.
Yeah.
So as soon as the trade went to a loser, I'm like, oh, it only lost if I get out of it. So let's see if it'll reverse. And it just is a nightmare, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started challenging that worst case scenario. And I was like, you know what? I'm so scared of worst case scenario. Is it really true? And I started challenging that. Like, is this the only time I can ever trade? No. If I fail at this, I can just go get a job, get some more money, and then come back and try trading again. It's not like this is my only time in my life to ever do this.
Yeah.
Right. So I started going, once I realized that, I was like, my brain has been telling me lies. Like everything, the real anchor behind my emotions in trading, the majority of them were based on lies. Like, no, this isn't my one and only shot to trade full time. I can trade again in 6 months after I gain some more money.
Right.
Like whatever. Right. And then again, it's facing that worst case. And that's one of the keys that you can build, and some of those tools that you can have to start trading under pressure.
I love that, by the way, the worst case scenario. I'm going to probably do that tonight once we wrap up here. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
It's a powerful thing. No, you're good. It really is a powerful thing. And that was the start. That was one of the tools I had, because once I was no longer scared of worst case scenario,
mm-hmm.
and you don't have to get to the end of your rope to realize this. Right. A lot of students are like, do I need to lose everything to be successful? Like, no. It wasn't losing everything that made me successful. It was losing everything finally caused me to think differently.
Right.
So if you just start thinking differently right now, you don't have to lose everything. Losing everything is the catalyst to make you think different.
Yep.
But if I can help you think different right now, you don't have to lose everything.
Ah, that's profound. It's profound, but so simple too.
So simple. Yeah.
So why is it so hard?
It's like walking 1,000 miles. It's so simple, but yet it's hard.
So why is it so hard?
Because it's the hardest way to make an easy living.
Yeah.
I think the stock market requires, so here's another thing I live by. The stock market's going to show you what you personally need healed.
Interesting.
It's a revealer of yourself. The stock market is just a mirror.
Oh, I'd agree with that. Yes.
Yeah. And so the stock market requires you not just to learn a skill, but to become your best self.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes it so hard, because most people hate themselves. That's just the truth. They do everything they can to hide from who they are. They put on a show. They don't show people their weaknesses. They just look at, social media. It's all glam and glorious, but there's never anything real on there.
Yeah. Otherwise you'd see a lot more losses on Reddit.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Right. 100%. And that's one of the reasons why I love real life trading is we post everything, good and bad. Like that's what, separates us and a lot of these other people, is if you can find someone that posts everything, then you'll see is like, this is why it's real life. Like we've had some bad years. We've had some really good years, and it's a long-term game.
Yeah.
And even right now, like this year has not been a great year for me. I double my trading account every year since I've been a professional trader. This year,
even the first year?
What's that?
Even the first year?
The first year within, let's see, Yeah. So I mean, I only had a $15,000 or $20,000 trading account, but towards the end, I
Oh,
was doubling my account every 3 months every
oh,
year.
okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
From that balance,
From that
not from
balance,
what you
correct.
put in initially.
Yeah,
To
no,
say that was a
exactly. So
hell of
that
a
first
year.
year I was down, but
Okay,
every year since then, yes,
all right.
I have been profitable, doubling my trading account profitably. But yeah, so this has been the first year really where price action has been a little screwy this year, and I missed things, and then I was waiting for pullbacks that would never come. So
Mhm.
I've been sitting on my hands a little bit. So the first 2 or 3 months out of the year were kind of wishy-washy. And then I've been just waiting to get in at certain levels that I see appealing. And I'm first off, I'm a very patient trader. That's what the markets have taught me to be. Because I was not a very patient person,
None of us are.
but I've learned to be patient.
Yeah.
Um, that's one of the key attributes that you can develop as a trader is patience will make you the most money more than probably anything, or tied up there with most everything.
I'm gonna have to ask you for some exercises to help with patience too, if you have any.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I'll we can definitely go over that. I'll see if I can't walk you through some of this stuff here.
Longtime fans of the show should be familiar with the lender formerly known as Sue Pullen, and I'm pleased to announce that she's back, fresh off a rebrand and ready to help as Sue Mackey. Sue is a certified mortgage advisor at Fairway Independent Mortgage, an equal housing lender who focuses on finding the right product for you and your needs. She has over 20 years of experience helping thousands of homeowners. Whether it's purchasing, refinancing, or even a reverse mortgage, Sue will help. Sue's licensed in 36 states now, so reach out and let Sue Mackey it happen for you. The best way to reach her is just give her a call at 520-977-7904 or in an email, spullen@fairwaymc.com. Fairway Independent Mortgage has an MLS number of 2289. Sue Mackey has an MLS number of 206048. That email again, spullen@fairwaymc.com, and that phone number is 520-977-7904. Shoot Sue an email and let her know she needs to update that address. I know one of the favorite things that I do that I fall back on whenever I find myself slipping in patience and it starts to become more of a theme is that I'll take a week off and do nothing but observing. And sometimes there's something about just sitting and watching a chart and counting the opportunities that you get that makes it so much easier the next week to be able to sit and wait for one.
Yeah,
Because in the moment it feels like this is the trade. If I don't get this trade, then I'm done. I'm not getting another trade today. But that's bullshit. There's
yeah,
always another trade. Maybe 5 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe a day, maybe a week, but there'll be another trade.
yeah. There's always another one. And again, your emotions, the natural man, the natural woman, right? Your
Mm-hmm.
emotions naturally are just going to be it's all about today. You live and die today. You make money today, you're a hero. You lose money today, you're a failure.
Yep.
Right.
Well
And
said.
over time, it just burns you out because the ups and downs just destroy you. Whereas a professional trader, the 10% of the people actually being successful, I'm basing myself on, did I lose small when I had an opportunity to lose small? Did I win big when I had an opportunity to win big? That's all I judge myself on. Right.
Interesting. Yeah.
So just changing that. And to get patience, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
But
I always feel like I can improve it though.
yeah, 100%. And that's the same thing with me. It's one of those things where I feel like it's hard to master, but you definitely look back and you can see how far you've come with it, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Um,
Well, that's the same thing with trading too. Like, does anybody ever fully master it? Like, it's kind of like practicing medicine or law. Like, you're practicing every day.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's improvement, right? Constant
Yes.
improvement, and that's what the
Yes.
markets require.
Yes.
One of the keys to gaining patience is perspective.
Okay.
If you can just zoom out a little bit more, it's a lot easier to be patient on a trade when you realize this trade really doesn't mean anything. This trade's not making me rich, and this trade's not going to make me broke.
Mm-hmm.
If you're putting the right size on it, I trade with 1% of my trading account per trade.
Yep.
I'm not blowing up my trading account if I lose, and I'm not a billionaire if I win. Right?
Yep.
It just doesn't mean anything. Like, do this. Try trading with $5.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I win, I make $6. If I lose, I lose a couple dollars. Right? It's like it's not even interesting enough to even look at the charts. Who cares? I don't really care the outcome of this trade. That right there is the peak trading mindset.
Mm-hmm.
You take that same approach with $20,000. If I had $20,000 risk on this trade, if I'm wrong, I lose 20 grand. If I'm right, I make 40. It's the exact same mindset, but money ties so much into that because all of a sudden we've
Yeah.
made a definition that 20,000 is a lot of money and $5 isn't, right?
Right. Well, and even with the $5, I mean, like throw that on like a $5 option. Like, okay, if that expires worthless, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you start talking about 20,000, I'm not letting that expire worthless. You kidding me?
Yeah, exactly. So that's where that math comes back into of that 20 grand, that should be 1% of your trading account.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of money, but proportionally, is it really that much money? No.
Proper
Right.
sizing sounds like one of the key components.
Key components. Proper sizing is one of the secrets to success. You will not blow up your trading account because of lack of skill. You blow up your trading account because of the wrong sizing.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yep.
Every single time.
Yeah, and I think the first time I saw that chart that shows like how much you need to recover from like a 10% loss, a 20% loss, all the way down to a 90% loss, like that is really eye-opening too. Because a 90% loss in your trading account, it's not 100% to get back to break even. No, you need like 1800% to get back to break even. And if you can't control those losses and you let them spiral out, it can get spiraled really quickly and be almost insurmountable.
Yeah. And that's where patience comes in, is that perspective, and expectations is the second part. Because if you have the expectation that you're going to make back money in 3 hours or a week and you'll be, fine, you tend to put a lot more size on trying to make that happen. And so again, it's flipping a coin. I don't know if my trade's going to win or not. All I know is that if it doesn't win, I'm losing small. And if it does win, I'm winning big. That's the only thing I know.
Mm-hmm.
It's flipping a coin. I can't be like, hey, it's heads. Oh, it was heads. See, I'm the smartest person in the world. I said that would land on heads. Like, I don't know.
But we still do that every time, don't we?
Yeah.
What?
We still do. It's just this ego thing.
Yeah.
It's so ego driven, but really when it comes down to it, talk to any successful trader and they're like, I don't know if this trade's going to win or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's a coin flip. I don't know. Heads or tails.
It's a fight, and that's what I look for. I want to know that I'm at least at a spot where they're fighting, because I know somebody's going to win.
Yeah.
If it goes against me.
Exactly. And that's the cool thing is once you learn price action, really, like I can look at it and go, the bulls should be right here.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as they're not, I can get out of the trade and lose very small.
Right.
And once they are, I know this is going to be a big winner and I can win big. So the best traders in the world, they're able to magnify the math. So first off, if people aren't making money, it's because your math is wrong. You're losing big and winning small. Mm-hmm. Okay. Normally has to do with you have a strategy that's not a 50-50. You haven't actually tested it, or your emotions aren't letting that strategy pay out.
Yep. Or any combination.
Yeah. Any combination or both.
Yeah.
If you're a break-even trader, a lot of the times it has more to do with the emotional side of things.
Yep.
But it can also be that your entries just are not, they could be better. So for me, I always pride myself on when everyone's making a 1-to-1 risk return, mm-hmm. I'm getting 2-to-1. And I'm doing that by my entry.
Yeah.
I'm using price action to go, this is an obvious, like, look at a hammer, right? Everyone knows what a hammer is for the most part.
Right.
Everyone gets in above the hammer on the top and they put their stop below it. Well, I don't want to move my stop up tighter. That's one way to, get a higher risk reward. I don't want to move my stop. I want to keep my stop where it needs to be. So what can I move? My entry.
Move your entry. Yep.
So how could I get a better entry off of this? Well, if that hammer's on a 5-minute, could I go to a 2-minute and look? And that's going to give me different price action. And now I can start to get in at a better price, not at the top of the hammer. So by the time everyone's getting in, I've already made a 1-to-1 return. Mm-hmm. When everyone's getting out for a 1-to-1, I made a 2-to-1. And vice versa. So I'm just increasing the math on top of everything else. And I'm using price action to help me do that. Mm-hmm. And if it's not bouncing, instead of me waiting to lose a full risk unit, I'm getting out for, 30% of what I was willing to risk because it didn't work right where I needed it to, right where it should have.
Scratching is an art that has so far, I think, eluded me. I have gone back and looked at my stats and I'll scratch and be right, 6 out of 10 times. But the math, when I'm shooting for a 2-to-1 risk reward, is actually costing me money to scratch out of those 6 trades.
Yeah.
So I've actually kind of gone the other way. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to let the brackets do their job. If I put the trade on, I should be accepting the risk. I should be letting it work. Let the bracket take you out.
100%. Yeah. So 100% agree on that. When you build your skills now, mm-hmm. and especially when it comes to price action, where you're able to read and then go, all right, so the chart's telling me this is going bullish. Okay.
Yeah.
The charts are also showing me exactly where I'm wrong. So my key is if I'm getting in when everyone else is getting out, meaning if I'm getting in around where people's stops are,
yes.
it's either going to work or it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so I can really manipulate that math, because how often do you get stopped out of a trade just to have it go to target?
Yeah. I think that was one of the first key pieces of advice we got was put your entries where your stops were
Yeah.
and see if that doesn't improve things for you.
Yeah. I mean, really all that's doing is just you're right. My stop is in a better location, and I'm using price action to go, look, is it still in a bull trend? Yes. If it comes all the way down to where everyone's stops are, is it still bullish?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then cool, I'll take it. If it's like, no, that would break everything and it's going bearish, I have very specific rules. And again, I teach all this stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to show.
Yeah. Right. Yeah,
But
for sure.
yeah, it's really, that's going to be the secret to, if you really want to start getting that. Number one, you've got to let the emotional side of being break even is you're not letting the trade work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's step number one. That's why I said I agree with you of just letting the brackets work. Your strategy should be what's allowing you to lose small and win big.
Yeah.
You got to let the strategy work. Once you get to that point where it's no longer the emotional side, now you can start to leverage that math even more in your favor.
Mm.
Or now I'm hitting 3, 4, 5 risk units when everyone else is hitting 1 or 2.
Right.
And I simply did that through getting a better entry, not needing the confirmation that everyone else need, because I know how to find confirmation in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
So
No, that makes a lot of sense.
And it takes time, right? Now, granted, I can show you how to do it, and that speeds up, right? What took me 3 years, you can now learn in a month of
Right.
practice, because I was just kind of, I don't know, just giving it a shot, shooting in the wind, right? I didn't have someone there to give me direction.
And you got to try a bunch of things to know that, okay, like this path led nowhere. But fortunately, you got to spend a bunch of time walking down a bunch of paths and figuring out which way leads up the mountain.
Exactly. And then the next thing is that I found that was really successful. We talked about credit spreads.
Mm-hmm.
Credit spreads involve selling an option.
Yeah.
And I teach this really simply. It sounds very complex, but it's like, when you're first learning how to drive a car, I'm not going to be like, okay, you press the gas and that sends an electronic signal over to this, and then it sends fuel into the cylinder. No, right? Gas is go, brake is stop. And so I teach a lot of options that way too, because when I first started, I didn't know everything about options, but I was profitable, right? Because as long as I knew what not to do for the most part, and I knew the general gist of how they worked, they were no longer scary.
Mm-hmm.
Before I was very, very scared of options because but once you understand that, I'm more scared of shares, right? Options, I have a max loss.
Right.
Shares, I don't.
Yeah.
They can just keep going. I'm technically down to 0, I guess, right?
Could, but the chances of that it happens, but it's a lot less frequent.
It's very, very low. And so with credit spreads, what I'm doing is, the benefit of that is it gives me a cushion.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say the stock's at $100 and I sell a credit spread down at $50. I win as long as it stays above $50.
Yeah.
So it gave me that cushion, and that's what I needed to start being successful, because I wasn't great at being perfect, but I was really good about not being dead wrong.
Right.
And as long as I wasn't dead wrong, I would make money. And so I just kept solving problems of the downside with, credit spreads have a 90% win rate. That's awesome. At least my strategy does.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really good. The downside is I have to risk a lot more to make a little, right? I'm risking way more than I'm making. So
yeah, the question is, does that 10% loss wipe out all the 90% gains?
Exactly. So then I started going, here's my problem with credit spreads.
Mm-hmm.
When you lose, they wipe out 6 months of wins. So how can I offset that? So then I started building, and I just would look at problems and go, how can I change this?
Yeah.
All right. What if I sold my spreads in areas where using price action, and I teach everyone how to do this, by the way. If you're like, man, I don't get this, it's okay. I don't have a screen to show you, but we using price action to go, if we get below this, it's bearish. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I could sell my spread underneath that, and using that previous example, the stock's at $100, I sell at $50. At $75, if it gets below that, I know there's a high probability it's going to 50. So then I can go in and hedge. I can buy puts. And what I'm going to do is those puts are going to make more money than that credit spread is going to lose by the time it gets to 50. Mm-hmm. And so I just start figuring out a hedge plan, and that hedge plan is super successful. So even when I'm wrong, I've turned those into winning trades. Mm-hmm. So I have a 90% win rate, and then a game plan to walk me through if I am wrong, which happens 10% of the time minimum. I have a way to work my way out of that.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why I was able to start being successful. And that was kind of the strategy that I built when I was first starting out, because it was so hard to be perfect when I didn't have the skills that I have now. And even now it's hard to be perfect. But going directionally, you have to be perfect, especially with options. You have to get the timing and direction perfectly correct,
Yep.
or else you're losing, right?
When you sell it, though, it's a lot more forgiving.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and that's the goal is, right? It's like, how can I give myself a cushion so I don't have to be perfect? But I just, if I'm dead wrong, okay, I'm dead wrong.
Well,
But
what it sounds like what you did is that you actually put together a fully functional trading plan. Like you've examined all the different scenarios that are likely to happen, and now you have a plan for what to do when those scenarios happen. I think a lot of us as traders, we forget that part. We only plan one aspect of it,
yeah,
or we have an idea what we want to do when price gets here, but when that doesn't happen, then we get stuck to that idea and trying to force it to happen, when as opposed to being open and seeing what really is happening.
that was such a great point, 100%. And that was my first strategy that I really just I took a different approach, right? Of like, oh, a hammer works. Let me just see if like this was a strategy where I was like, what's every single problem with this strategy? What is every single con with this strategy?
Mm-hmm.
And I made this strategy addressing every single downside that I could.
Mm-hmm.
And it got even, to a point where I'm like, even worst case scenario, I'm going to limit how much I can lose, even if I don't get a chance to hedge it. Cause there's sometimes it just gaps all the way to it. Right.
Right.
I don't get a chance to buy a put overnight. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
what do I do then? Right. And so this strategy just walks through, and it walks through every single scenario that I've faced over the years. And by the way, this is still my go-to strategy all these years later that I use to pay my bills every month.
Mm-hmm.
I day trade and I do everything else, but this is still my go-to strategy because it's worked, and it uses price action, which never goes out of style. It sets yourself up. And then when you are wrong, it gives you a game plan of exactly what to do. What do you do in this scenario? What do you do when it does gap? What do you do when you need to do this or that? What do you do when it's working?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and the cool thing is that naturally, whenever people are selling options, they do a theta play. Theta is time decay, right? So you're just holding out for time.
Right.
For me, I looked at that, and again, I was kind of rushed because I'm like, I don't have time to hold a month, right? I need to make money. So I kind of changed it and I made it more delta based, which is involving a little bit more of the movement of the price of the stock.
Yeah.
And so what I would do is I would sell my credit spreads at the most opportune time that not only pays me the most money, but if it reverses, I can win a lot faster on a reversal than I would theta. So I'm getting out of these credit spreads in a day or two when everyone else is holding on for a month.
Right. Okay.
They get into it when the price is at $100, and I wait for it to get to $75, and then it bounces from $75 back to $100, where they're getting back to break even. I've already captured 70% and I'm bouncing out.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why I'm able to have such huge returns. 200 to 400% return on investment with this strategy is because I am getting paid more than most people. Most people are trying to get paid, 2%, 3% of their risk. I'm getting paid 20% of my risk.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing 10 times the volume because I'm getting in and out in 2 or 3 days when everyone else gets in and waits until it expires worthless in 30 days.
That's another good point. Yeah. Time is finite.
Yeah. So if you can set yourself up again, the entry, and I'm able to sell a lot closer because I have a game plan if I'm wrong, and it's still very far away, but it's closer than what most people would do because I've realized my risk is always the same with credit spreads. It's the difference between the short and the long strike.
Yeah.
So why not get paid more for that same risk? It's actually less risk that way, because if I'm selling a 5 delta and I'm only getting paid $100 a spread, I'm still risking $5,000 to make that $100.
Right. Right.
If I get paid $700 for that spread and I'm still risking, I know it's less because but for easy math, you're risking $5,000 for that. I can make my money back way faster than someone that's only getting paid $100. And that's what I'm saying. One loss wipes out 6 months. Well, not with me.
Right.
First off, I always get out when it gets to my sold strike. So you should lose about 30% of your max loss. So if you're risking $5,000, you're going to lose like $1,500. If I'm getting paid $700 a spread, I can make back that loss in 2 credit spreads and I'm in the green again.
Right.
And I average 10 or 20 wins in a row with credit spreads before I see 1 or 2 losses. And by the way, those losses, I mean, hedges, right? I usually will hedge the ones that I'm losing on, but worst case scenario, even if I don't hedge it, I'm still, within 2 or 3 credit spreads, I make back my loss. And now I have 10 to 20 in a row of profits.
Right.
So those are some of the drawdowns I've seen with credit spreads. Is they're super great until they don't win. So how can I change that? Well, get paid more.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I can make back my losses faster instead of, taking 6 months to make up one loss.
And then the other step is lose less.
Yeah, exactly. And then, put some measures in place and sell at the right locations and at the right timing so that I can maximize my profits, but also again, know if it's working or not so I can grab a hedge. And if the hedge fails, let's say I buy puts and it goes higher, well, that means my credit spread's winning. So I'm turning a losing trade into a break-even trade. I'll take that all day long.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially when you're risking a lot more. So again, I don't know how to get off on this huge side tangent, but that's kind of what I do. And that's what I've come up with to kind of keep me alive. That's what kept me alive in the game long enough to learn everything else.
Well, there's been a lot of lessons that I think you've shared with us. There's one last question that I had on here, and this was kind of what you're talking about on My Worst Investment, and you kind of touched on it a little bit today with us. Why do new traders balk at spending money on learning? Why are we all afraid to commit, like even like a small amount, like $500 for a class? Like, why are we afraid of doing that when we're willing to go lose 5 times, 10 times that amount over a short period of time?
Yeah, I think it has to do it has to do with that same mindset of the reason why we won't cut losses for small losses. Because for us, we have the perspective of if I win, if I gain money, I'm a winner. If I lose money, I'm a loser. So I can learn this stuff on my own. And if I spend that on something, that means I've lost money for no reason when I can just learn it. Right. So it's kind of that same mindset, at least over the years that I've seen, because I had that same mindset. It was $1,000 for 1 hour with Jeremy Newsom. Yeah. And I was like, I've got 30,000 in my trading account. I can do this on my own. And instead I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars because I didn't want to spend $1,000.
Right.
And it's human nature, I guess. But if you can start thinking differently, starting with investing in yourself, I promise you that $500 is well spent meeting with someone or taking a course that someone's gone through, right? That's and showing you what not to do. Like my credit spread course, it's $500. But that credit spread course, if I can teach you one thing of what not to do and it saves you $3,000 worth of losses, that's worth it just in that.
Right.
And
yes.
If you can change your mindset and start thinking as wins, right? Losing small is a win.
Yes.
Changing the way you think, it's going to help you in your trading, and it's also going to speed up your process because that thinking right there is the exact reason why you're going to fail in trading.
Yeah. Well said. Speaking of the courses, man, what do you have to offer?
Man, thank you so much. I wanted to do something special, and I always want to go above and beyond. So what I'm doing here is reallifetrading.com/Tony Pawlak, Pawlak, and it'll be posted. If you grab a course off of that, that's just a webpage that has all of my courses on there. It takes me about 2 to 3 years to make one course, by the way. So
wow.
I only put things out that it's going to completely change your life. And if it doesn't pay for itself, I want you to email me and I will give you a free $1,000 coaching session to figure out what you're doing wrong. Because everything I'm giving out is what I do every day to make money. But if you grab any one of my courses, I'm going to give you a 4-week mentor group with me. That's normally about a $2,000 value that I charge for that. Damn. So 4-week mentor group going over instructing you of exactly how to make money for an entire month. So spend a couple $100 and get $2,000 worth of a mentor group.
That's one way to change people's thinking, right?
Yeah.
You get some free.
Just buy your ticket into the room. Because not only will the information in that course set you up for success, but I'm going to hold your hand and walk you through it for the next 4 weeks to make sure that you're utilizing it correctly and helping you through whatever stumbling blocks might be in your way to help you use those as stepping stones to get you forward. So yeah, any course you want, grab it and you'll get automatically in. So if someone's listening to this like 3 years later, by the way, that's going to start fall 2023.
Yeah.
If someone's listening 3 days later, you will get all the recordings from that mentor group sent to you as soon as you get the course.
Oh, so that's amazing.
It'll all be on your real life trading dashboard. It's the same place that our courses are located. So whenever you get the course, it's free. You just get on the dashboard. It just holds everything in one place for you. You'll get all those recordings there if you're listening to this in a couple of years. So I'm going to just keep passing out all the recordings. It doesn't matter. It's not something you have to be here live for. But if you do get a chance to get this early and you can be there live for 4 weeks, it's going to be epic. So,
when does that start?
That is going to start. I'm going to give it a couple months just to
Okay, good.
give it a little bit of a room for people to be able to listen to this and sign up and do all that stuff. But it'll start in the fall, around October.
That's amazing. I love that. Anything else you want to say before we wrap this thing up?
Man, I feel like I've just been yapping this whole time, but
Oh,
one thing I
that's the
want to
nature of
say
a
is,
podcast, right?
yeah, I guess if I could leave anything with this is realize there is no easy path. It is going to take more than you think, and it's going to take a little bit longer than you expect.
Yeah.
But when expectations kill dreams, because I expected myself to be a successful trader in 3 months, and my entire journey took 3 or 4 years.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, yeah. And so just give yourself more patience. What's a best way that you can learn patience is to start with being patient in the learning process of trading.
Yeah, somebody else said use this analogy. Like when you go start working at like AutoZone, like you can't just go up to the store manager and be like, I want to be the GM. Like, dude, change a tire or two first. Like,
Yeah.
like you got to
Yeah.
put some work in. You got to learn the job. Like this is a new career path.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it is. It's a career.
Yeah.
And it's a skill set, and anyone can learn it.
But don't expect to be good at it right out of the gate because it takes time.
It takes time, and anyone can make money. It's who can keep it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all about the 100 trades. So again, think about the bigger picture. This one trade doesn't matter. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. Start thinking differently, be different, be the 10%, not the 90.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, you will make it in these markets. It's just sticking in the game long enough to get it. So again, appreciate you. Thank you so much for letting me be here and chatting with me. I had a blast.
Tony, this has been phenomenal. Hopefully we can try to figure something out to get you back here again soon.
Yeah, be happy to.
But unfortunately, that does mean, though, that we have come to the end of our time. But don't be sad. Check out reallifetrading.com/Tony Pawlak.
Correct.
Or the YouTube channel at Real Life Trading if you want to learn more about what Tony has to offer aspiring traders. We will be back soon with another exciting episode. But until then, slap that 5-star rating on the wrist like it's Bostic violating the blackout period again. Take care.
Two Bulls in a China Shop is an entertainment program, and all thoughts and opinions expressed in the show belong to the hosts and not of any company. They are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security or investment product. It is only intended to provide entertainment about stocks and the financial industry of trading. If you make trades based on what you hear in this show, you assume all risks for those trades.